there's the one that got set today. So we're hoping that they're both set, that the crew will get here. Like an hour, set it up, so. Otherwise it's a long
It's
drive.
been for the holidays. Are you commuting?
Oh, yeah, it's a long drive home last night.
Can't stay at your mom and dad?
I mean, I could.
Hear ya. Where'd you go in Florida?
Ocean Reef.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it's your birthday.
Here it is.
My God,
Yeah.
29.
Yes.
Again?
Again. And again. and
Congratulations.
again. Yes. Yeah.
Your kids.
What?
Your kids.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Now back to reality. Yeah.
Jamie, how many more weeks of school?
I think we've got 2 weeks and then break. Yeah, our break's short this year though, but
What is it?
that's okay. It's, I think we start the 23rd for my school, 23rd through, and then we come back on the 2nd or 3rd.
That's just 2 weeks.
Yeah, a little bit less than that, but yeah. It's all right. One's counting down already.
But we just need some more snow.
I know, it's gonna be
Yeah.
cold. We might as well be
Yeah,
able to go
well, we
out.
started off strong
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was
Who's
like,
this?
Has
it was
everybody been
so-
out skiing?
oh yeah, they were
Yeah.
out.
He will,
They
Right
did a
after.
race camp
Oh.
over Thanksgiving because there was so much snow, and we weren't supposed to be here, and we came back so he could do it.
Yeah.
yeah, they've been.
It's like we started,
Yeah.
and he started fall break in winter
Yeah,
and fall
exactly.
again. It was
Yeah.
like we went backwards.
Yeah.
but not the
Yeah,
great
so
one.
he came back, skied, he missed, there was like a
Well, it's
morning
not really
session
Friday.
Friday, he missed, and he skied Friday till 4:30.
I'm not even sure I
played the campus.
understand the entire
Oh,
thing.
wow. And then he skied till
But
4:30.
that's awesome.
And then we were,
Totally
he was here this weekend,
Mm.
staying with a friend, and he skied all weekend.
Oh,
long.
good, good. I had a couple of students doing the design, like,
Oh,
Saturday,
okay.
Sunday, but
Whatever.
for some
Yeah.
people, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, yeah,
Just-
they'll still be out there, yeah. I haven't gone yet, but
Yeah.
hopefully we get some more. and-
Yeah, lift off the Band-Aid and I used to snowboard and then I had kids and so I haven't really gone because it's not easy to snowboard and kids that are on skis and my youngest is now almost 4. I'm starting to ski, so I'm like, all right, it's time. So I'm gonna have to be writing the lessons with the kids trying to figure out how to get down the hill, but it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Will he do middle school ski team and?
And, yeah, he does both. Yeah.
Your time, right?
Yeah.
There's nobody in the audience. It's okay, good. Okay,
Ready to get started?
I can still do it.
Great. Everybody, welcome to our December meeting, last one of the year. We've got some fun stuff on the agenda tonight. I did want to just introduce, we're gonna try a new protocol for Parks Board. Where we'll still have public comments in the beginning for items not on the agenda. 3 minutes as always. We're not going to entertain questions during public comment. I think that's where things kind of went sideways at the last meeting. So Rachel can jot down questions, and if it's appropriate to answer them later, that could happen. Otherwise, people can always make an appointment with Rachel or any board members. Okay, Rachel, you want to call roll?
John Cox,
Here.
Dan Mulder,
Here.
Gary,
Here,
here, Sarah with me, here. We have a forum.
Great. And it looks like we have, has everybody read the minutes from 2 months ago?
So many.
I remember.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. And then we have board communication here. This is kind of an FYI thing, Rachel.
Yeah, so if you want to read that email with me today or another day, but a citizen, Ashley O'Reilly, reached out, and she's reached out a couple times about this to myself and the DDA about the Mead architecture in Harbor Springs. The high school is a good example of that, and showcasing it and possibly doing. I'd have to sit down with her and actually get it what what she's trying, but from what I'm looking at, it seems like she wants to do kind of a tour through town. Like you would stop at each park, have kind of a historical talk. You would go downtown or each building and have like a little historical talk for locals, visitors, and it would probably be like Parks Historical Society. It wouldn't just be a parks thing. There'd have to be other people involved.
Do we have any neat structures in the parks?
I think she has
The
it
cannon.
listed here. Yeah, the cannon, and I think there's something else.
What do you mean, cannon?
He designed it.
Yeah.
He designed the cannon? That's crazy.
So and she's talked to the library as well, Topo Nexus, she's spoken to, the DDA and the planning commission. I'm not sure the planning commission would be involved, but it's any old cottage style, buildings. So just something to keep in mind. I'll speak to Margot and see what her thoughts are, and then possibly try and sit down with Ashley and get more detail for what she's looking for.
Like something similar to what they have in Charlotte with
The mushroom
the
houses.
mushroom house, the Earl architecture stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and it'd be cool to have like historical plaques, you know, like to explain like the canon or like the high school, things like that. It's just, they're not all in parks, which is why it would have to be a partnership.
Right.
It could be a kind of self-guided thing tour where you drop pins on a map and somebody could go in it by themselves.
Yeah.
Do you know if any of the structures are like lived in, and still, besides the high school, obviously?
Yes.
Oh,
He-
okay.
He did a lot of like the weekly and Harbor
Okay.
Point Cottage.
Yeah, so some of them are private
There's
property
like,
as
yes,
well.
and like the windows with the snowflake
Mhm.
at the top, that's
Okay.
like, that was his signature.
Okay. But it's a cool concept, and it's something that, I mean, well, I guess I'm new to there, I didn't realize. I knew the high school had historical value, but I wasn't aware there were so many in the city.
So like plaques with QR codes, or would this be like a one-time event that?
I think she's looking at it to not be a one-time event, but something visitors can do throughout the summer. So like Dan said, it could be self-guided, it could be guided by the historical society. There are a bunch of different ways.
Subway access.
Yeah, we could do it. Topo Nexus, I know, does a lot of things like that, so.
All right.
Okay.
Let's see, do we have any public comments before we get going that have to do with things not on the agenda?
So maybe.
Okay. Let's get going then on the discussion items. Rachel?
Yeah, so we have Gardner Gerard here, and he is going to do a presentation. We've spoken about Ottawa Stadium and holding concerts there. He has a lot of experience with venues similar to this and hosting larger events. So he's kind of gonna give an overview of just what that would look like. We're not saying we'll do that in 2023. We could, but we'd have to really get moving on it now. But he'd be able to give a really great overview of what that could look like for Harbor Springs. Go ahead, Mark.
So Rachel, do you want to enable me to share my screen, or
I have it, one moment.
you can project it? So I'm Gardner Gerard. I live down here in Atlanta, Georgia. Started going up to Harbor Springs in 1978. My mom's aunt actually bought a house up there in 1955 down in Weequahic, and she grew up going up there. And then it's just hot in Georgia in the summer, basically. And but I've always kind of been into music, and I have fond memories growing up in northern Michigan, going to music, mostly over at the Castle in Charlevoix or Bliss Fest. And one of the things that kind of started playing around with a few years back was curating more music in the area in venues that aren't necessarily built for concerts, but they make, for good venue. We're doing that in Atlanta with country clubs. We're having a lot of concerts out on golf courses. And there's two logos here. One is a legit logo, Topeka, that they've actually done some work. The 3SIP is the company that I started. It's actually headquartered in Harbor Springs, and it's a LLC that I did with my daughter, and we probably done 6 or 7 events so far, but I just found some neat, what's the right word for the, it's not really a logo. I just put it in some different font. But we, like, so I went to Rachel, I guess this summer, the end of this summer. I'd been reading the city's budget and capital, 5-year capital plan. And I saw in there amphitheater for $50,000. And so first, I think it's gonna be a lot more than $50,000 building an amphitheater, but I went to Rachel, it's like, I would love to find a place to like have concerts in Harbor Springs. And the guys from Obata will talk to you in a minute about the park concept, where that could be a possible smaller venue. But Rachel just mentioned, she said, well, we've got this stadium. And I've always looked at that stadium and said, you could have a great concert in there. And so I'm not really here to advocate whether you do or don't want to have a concert there. I can tell you what I think the benefits are, some of which probably half the town will want and half the town won't. But I'm more here just to kind of give you our bona fides on who we are and what we do. 3 Sips Local, and we've been doing concerts at the Conservancy, out at the Off-Field location. We've also done some out on Stutzmansville at a farm. We've done them over in Bayview. We've done them down on Lake Leelanau and Traverse City. And our shows have been more singer-songwriters. So we've had, the lead singer from Blues Traveler or Spin Doctors or, Driving and Crying. And we kind of do it in this singer-songwriter. It's more, seated. It's not like Metallica where you're blasting a bunch of music. It's very kind of mellow and chill and more, sitting on a blanket and watching music. And that ranges from 200 to 400 people. And then Topeka is a company that I'm an investor in. One of my best friends started it, Andy Levine, and he does much larger concerts. And if we did put on a show in the stadium there in Ottawa Stadium, we would partner with Topeka because he's doing 20, 30 shows a year, average 3,000, 4,000 people. He does a lot in Florida, does some in Georgia, but has, all the expertise. And he's actually the one that has the relationships with all the musicians. He's very good friends with Kid Rock, coincidentally, who's up there in Michigan. Not that we can get Kid Rock for a stadium concert, he would be way too expensive. What we would, what I would propose if you did do it would that, I'm thinking that we could do a concert with around 1,500 people. I think that stadium, Rachel, I don't know if you ever got feedback on how many it holds.
I don't know
But just
exactly how many it holds, no.
A little over 2,000.
Yeah, it's gotta be at least 2,000.
yeah,
A little over
you,
2,000.
how much?
With the new design, I think it's a little over 2,000.
Yeah. And so there's some certain layouts you could do where over time, I think you could have 2,000, 2,500 people in there easy with the space that's available. You'd put the stage in the middle of the field, there'd be standing elements and there'd be seated elements. The short term is just to, kind of test the waters, do a smaller show, keep it down to 1,200, 1,500 people. We can kind of work out any kinks, you can get feedback from the community. Long term, if I was dreaming big, what I'd really like to see happen would be, a weekend music festival, and we could draw people from all over the Midwest. People will come a long way for a music festival, and you could do, you could have 3,000, 4,000 people in there. And I'm sure a lot of you are cringing hearing me say that and visualizing that many people walking around the town and so forth. But it's just a question of economic development and, versus people wanting things to be quiet in the way they always are. But you could easily do that there. I don't have any doubt that with a couple of years of work, you could get to a point where you could have a marquee music festival in Harbor Springs. And I'm not saying that's what you need to do. It's just, but if it's something you wanted to do, I'm telling you with 95+% confidence, we could just curate something that would draw people from all over. Somewhat like Bliss does with folk music. But it would be musicians like Brandy Carlisle or Lake Street Dive or Leftover Salmon or and you would do it where you'd have, call it 6 to 10 or maybe 5 to 10, and you'd have a local. We'd probably find someone in the region to open up that people might recognize. Then you might get a little bit bigger band to play second, and then you'd have your headliner. So maybe I'll just pause. Any questions? I'm trying not to read the slides, but I'm also kind of rambling.
So spot on with what some of us have talked about for years. So.
Yeah. So what I would tell you, we would be willing to do, and this is more like when I use the word curate, I really want it to be whatever you guys want. Like we would be here to be, you would be the customer, and we can kind of work with flexibility to do whatever portion you want. But what I would propose up front that we'd be willing to do is we would underwrite it, pay for it, book the band, book the artist. We'd actually create a brand and, market it and actually come up with a name with you guys, in concert with Rachel and her team. We would handle all ticket sales, all marketing of it. We know how to do that. We may use Topeka's ticketing system. We may just use My North Tickets or something like that. But we do radio, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those kinds of things. We can handle all the production, the staging, lighting. There's several companies up there that we've already worked with that can handle this type of staging, lighting, and Topeka has a lot of experience with that. We'd handle the band logistics, getting them there, their contracts, insurance, lodging, food and beverage. We might like the food would be easy. I think easier. We could do food trucks. We can talk about that. You don't need to really serve people dinner here, but they need to be able to order, get something. It's the alcohol would be the one that I would probably say we might need some help with. What I'd envision doing is going to one of the breweries or local alcohol distributor and partnering with them to do it. And then, of course, all the staffing, the security, the parking, the door, the cleanup, we would do all of those things. I would tell you that if we did all of those things, we would probably lose money the first year we did it with 1,500 people. So I'm not saying that you'd have to commit that we would keep doing them and grow it, but the reason for us doing it would largely be with the idea that there's a chance we could build it into a festival that actually made money, over time. Because, just the first time you do something like this and by keeping it smaller and also trying to keep the ticket prices accessible, you just can't quite generate enough revenue because what I would also say to you, and it's largely me, we're talking about underwriting this thing. I'd be willing to spend some extra money to make it really good the first year, like to get a bigger band than we probably would afford selling $100 tickets, $1,500 tickets or something. And then the next slide, Rachel, is just kind of what I would need from you guys largely is, do you want to do this to, what date? I would recommend a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. If you were going to do a festival, it's usually better to do it Saturday and Sunday. I don't think we should do a festival the first year. I'm not saying that. I'm just kind of throwing out what works well for travelers. Obviously, you own the stadium, so we need to know permission for that. We need to have some understanding around where we could allow for parking. We can coordinate, the parking, but we would, you own the property and we would need to make sure we worked with the city in concert there. And then I've just put work with the production team on event programming because I don't want anybody to ever get the feeling that it'd be like, okay, we've said they could do it, and then all of a sudden we're off to the races and you don't really have any say in who we're booking or what we're doing. We wouldn't do anything without, the Rachel's department or whoever you guys all assign to be in charge of it as we kind of curate the programming. The benefits, I think, are self-evident. So I won't read them here. I think you guys all know it. Obviously, there's a sound element. I have this like gut feeling that we can set up a stage that we got to watch for an echo, but I think I have this feeling that we can actually aim that sound a lot into the wall, into the hillside there. I don't think it's going to be as any different than the marching band at the football game, but I can't say that with 100% certainty. We'd have to like, get somebody to measure the sound up on the hill or something, but this is not these are not real pictures. There's an app where you can just type in what you want. And I just said, the stage on a football field. It's this AI thing. And so it just generated these pictures, but the one on the left would be probably not what we do the first year, because that would be the setup if we were going to try to expand to like 2,000 or 2,500. You see how the stage would be pushed back a little bit, and there would be some room, for people to stand. And also, I would foresee this thing being all general admission, which works well in this festival kind of structure. We might have a VIP section where we'd have some seats reserved for city officials or whomever, or sponsors. We get some sponsors to do it. But for the most part, it would be general admission. I think with just 1,500 people with a 2,000 seating capacity, you would do it what's on the right, kind of push that stage right up against the seating. But that's kind of a TBD. But I just did these just so you'd have a visual. This is about the stage size that you'd be talking about. It's probably $30,000, $40,000 to get one of those stages put up. That's the other reason why the festival thing makes more money is because all the engineers, all the infrastructure, all the staging, the sound, if you can spread it across 2 days, it's just more economical because it costs the same to get it put there one way or the other. And that's it.
Is the current stage there not big enough for, to get started with?
Is that I haven't really walked in there and seen it. But we have to cover it. Now, are you talking about the stage is kind of right? It's probably the concrete slab there.
Yes. Yep, that's right.
I think that would probably be enough square footage. We would just probably need to cover it. A lot of what you're seeing here is not so much the platform, the foundation of the stage is not the cost. It's all the lighting and the sound.
Right. Yep.
Where they're hanging all the light, it's the scaffolding and stuff.
Yep.
And then we would probably need to build in a tented area behind that for artists to pre-game, where they would be back there
Yep.
in their own, like a green room, since it's too far away from any other real structure. So we'd probably have a little tented area in behind the stage, and that would cost a little bit. But it's really, it's not too late to do it in 2023. There's no rush here. If you did want to do it, though, I will tell you that music is popular right now. Live events are popular right now. These artists are getting booked. The best way to get a good artist is to do a bracket booking with somebody like in Chicago or St. Louis. And we know people there, but they're booking their festivals right now. So like if you want to get an artist from California, you want to get them when they're coming to do their shows in St. Louis and Chicago or wherever. So, but that's it. I don't want to take up too much time, and I have a work dinner. So
Thank you, Gardner.
I have a question.
Any
for you,
questions?
Gardner.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Nice to see you again, Dana Mulder here.
Oh, hey.
And hi. I'm just trying to wrap my head around the finances of this thing. So
Mhm.
would you pay Harbor Springs anything for use of the stadium?
We could, yeah. We could, it's like, again, I think since it's so new, we're kind of all friends, I think there's a lot of flexibility in how we, structure it. We have paid venue fees with other shows we've done. And
I'm just
and
thinking
that would-
about restoration of the lawn and sprinkler heads and, Rachel's administrative time, not for a while though.
It's going to be turf.
I think how you financially architect it for me is just kind of like, okay, if there's just a flat fee for the rental of the place and then we're paying for everything else, then our expectation is over time that if we start making money, then we would just keep all the profits. If the city's putting up money to help do it, then we would be architecting something where we're sharing in the upside of the performance. But I would say 90% of the things we've done with venues is we've just paid a venue fee. But again, pretty open to what works best for the city.
Cool.
I kind of a silly question, inclement weather, what happens from that perspective?
These are rain or shine events. And so that's why you have to have it covered like that, because you got this much. Now, if the whole thing got canceled, we will have purchased insurance. So, if for some reason, this is called act of God, we have something where it's lightning or there's one of those crazy storms that knocks everybody's docks out and there's just no way. If you can't play, then we have to refund everybody's money. But we'll have insurance for that. And that's not something on the city. But the cost of this, just so you know, like it's probably in the 150, 200,000 range. Maybe it's, it just depends on the artist. Depends on the artist. I mean, if we get a Lake Street Dive or something like that, it's pretty well known, which would be really cool. It's going to be, $100,000 to get them or more. If you get Leftover Salmon, which is a great band, and in fact, there's some bands we could get like Blues Traveler that would probably cost a lot less, even though they might be more well known. They're just not as popular right now. So most of the cost is in the quality of the artists that you get. The infrastructure here is, call it 30, 40,000.
Gardner, do you see anything that would need to be done to the stadium to bring it up to snuff?
No, the only thing that sounded appealing to me was that y'all were going to turf it. Then if you're going to do the left setup, it'd be a lot better that it's turf, because I would be feeling a little bad if it rained and then all of a sudden we had, mudsliding going on in front of the stadium with, 20-year-olds who think it's Woodstock and it wrecks your football. So like the way you prevent that in year one is you restrict access. If it's still grass, you just restrict access to the field itself by, putting a stage right up against the seats. And then you just kind of create some kind of roping or something to keep people off the field. But if it's turf, that's pretty durable.
Yeah.
You're lucky to have the fire chief with you tonight, John Cups. John, do you see any issues with safety or crowd control or?
No, there's been concerts there before. There's been big football games, college games here.
Mhm.
There's been a lot of things go on in that stadium. The biggest thing will be coordinating parking,
Yeah.
with, between the stadium up, below, down, we got parking over by the ball fields,
The park on Jean Jardine for a day.
Yeah, there's gonna be, depending on the time of year. Whether we did it in the spring, the summer, the fall. Fall is probably a better time to do something here. But then again, fall, we're talking football season. So there's pros and cons. I mean, we'll have to talk about it a little bit. I think it's a great idea. I'd love to see something like this.
I'm excited about it too. I do have one question, like, is Parks the best group to be coordinating this, or would this be a chamber thing,
It should be Parks, just Parks.
I think Parks, but I think it'd be up to Rachel and let Rachel maybe pick a group of people. It maybe Bonnie be part of it, so to speak, work in conjunction with, but I think this should be, her and a group, a committee, maybe put together a small committee
Yeah, I
type
think
thing.
my recommendation would be it's not gonna be a 2023 concert. And my recommendation for that is we are gonna have to contact the school because they're the ones that actually manage. I mean, we own the property, but we have to respect that they manage the property, use it for so many things. It's gonna have to be a whole separate contract than our application for city events. We probably want public and some sort of public input before we put anything. I mean, they've had large things there, but before we go further with something.
Everything becomes controversial.
But
I don't really think we need to go public input on it, honestly. I think it'd just be a committee and
a committee people could come to,
a committee.
exactly. You're
It'd be a
still
meeting.
gathering people, they have an option to attend a committee meeting.
So what would be the route on this then? We would make a recommendation to council that we'd like to go forward with this.
Yeah, I think we could even just go to Victor and come up with like a form of like questions that we all just asked. Like, when do we do it? How do we do parking? All those questions. And then we speak to the school, what their concerns would be.
And then council would decide on it.
Yeah, and then council could decide on it. We could do a committee with Bonnie and move forward.
Hey, Rachel, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm gonna need to drop and.
No, that's okay.
I'm
Thank
really-
you so
I
much.
really, and whenever is fine. Like there's no, if it's 2024, I think it gives us time to really think about it and do it right. I think that's great. I'm bummed out. I can't stay for the next part. I'm probably more excited about that than I am about the concert. But y'all are in good hands and with the professionals anyway, and I'd probably just be creating noise around it. I don't know anybody in the room, but I was just wondering if we had a playground at the concert, would that help?
Oh my gosh. Goodbye.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
That's funny.
And I agree with them. I think if we do it in 2023, we're pushing
I think we
it.
got enough on our plate.
Yeah, we have the skate park going on 2023, potentially, like, I just think that's too much. So I think it needs to be a well thought out.
And we should find out really realistically how much of your time it's gonna take to do all the coordination. If it becomes a full-time job, then,
Mhm.
you know.
And
maybe
we don't want the
that's-
first year to just be the band that was available, you know, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but if we're gonna do it, he's right, we should do it correctly and really have the right forms and.
Well, I think like one or two from this board and
Yeah,
maybe like Bonnie,
right, people that have more experience with larger.
type thing.
So what's our
Yeah.
next step on this then?
The next step would be, I want to speak to the schools, because we can't move forward at all until we have a meeting with them, and they're kind of in the middle of that's the other thing is, I don't want to push the schools to hurry when they're in the middle of their,
Big plan.
yeah, so.
Well,
Well,
the
and
big
the
thing,
school
the big
year.
thing with the schools
So-
is find out what their plan is with the field.
Right, like the
If
turf,
or when
yeah,
they're gonna do, because I've heard a
Yeah.
couple different things on that turf.
right, I just don't want to
So-
rush the schools in the middle of a school year either, that gives them, all spring and summer.
Yeah,
To come up
there's-
with their concerns.
This board meeting, maybe September, October,
Yeah.
where they went back and forth over the turf.
Right.
So it's still.
So it's still there, they
Yeah.
don't know.
And
Yeah.
we could
Well, there's a
still
lot
do
of
it.
pros and cons to it. and I
Yeah.
think they're still trying
Right.
to figure out
They
whether
don't know
that's a.
what they're doing.
Yeah, and we
The
can still
turf
do it at
is
grass, but that
Right,
changes
done
a
deal.
lot of things, you know, because then you gotta protect the grass and the season and things like that, so.
It just depends. There's a lot that plays into it.
But they maintenance the grass on the field, so we just don't want to create more of a headache.
Yeah.
For them. But I think it's a great idea.
So talk to the schools, get a committee together.
No.
Yeah, it's something we can
Have some-
revisit.
I think it's
you know,
great that we have a
January,
local
February, and-
does that and is willing to basically say, let's try it for a year. I don't think we would charge them we'd probably just see how the first year went. with it, 'cause
Bill,
they're
if we
gonna be
have
putting-
costs, though, I think we should at least recoup costs, you know.
Well, I think you have to start with a fee, because you can't then add it in the second year, say,
Right.
oh, this was successful, so
Yeah.
now we're gonna
I think
charge
we'd
you
have a fee,
rental fee.
But I don't know what the final fee is, like, let's say hypothetically they did have that festival, that's a much higher fee
Right.
than doing
Well,
it
you
for
do
one night, yeah.
Right, yeah.
But it's not gonna be the city application fee with like $50, you know, like that's not.
No,
That
no,
doesn't
this
sound
this should be a revenue
Okay,
making
right.
event. So I
Right.
think there's
Right.
research that needs to go into it.
Right.
For sure. So
Okay,
next.
let's move on then.
Max, hello. So,
Hey.
Gardner was kind enough, so he came to me originally for the amphitheater idea. And he was kind enough to get a hold of Max Bada, and he actually funded the designs for the amphitheater. So pretty excited. Max, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, great, thank you. And is it okay if I just tell you next slide?
Yeah,
When
just tell
I'm
me
ready?
what I need to do.
Great, thank you. Well, yeah, thank you for having us. My name's Max Obata, and I'm one of the principals of Obata Noblin Architects, and my business partner Tyler is the other guy.
Hey, everyone.
for Zoom. But I'll be sort of walking you through a short concept design package that we've put together over the past few months. And you can go to the next slide. Yeah, great, thank you. So Gardner, just a high level background, Gardner approached us this summer with an idea to look for opportunities to create civic gathering spaces in Harbor Springs, sort of programmed areas within one of the parks in Harbor Springs. And so specifically with Rachel's help, we landed on an idea to create a pavilion and landscaped site within Cosequat Park at the corner of Hoyt and East Main Street that can serve as a backdrop for a sort of variety of different purposes. So I actually got a chance to visit the site in September and bounce around with Rachel to a few different sites. But I think this one, and you can see it in, it's outlined in the white little oval. Yeah. We really fell in love with the site for a number of different aspects. I think, it's elevated above East Main, so it has this really beautiful view out to the water and sort of over the stadium. And it has really nice proximity to some parking and some other site infrastructure that's part of the park. So bathrooms and electricity not so far away. And so we struck out to develop a landscape plan and a pavilion design in this specific zone that could be used for a variety of occasions. So if you go to the next slide and maybe the one after. So here's a top site plan view. So you can see Hoyt on the left there, and then East Main on the bottom, and then the pickleball court, or the the pickleball courts and the skate park are over to the right. So I'll sort of walk you through a few different images that kind of lay out how our concept got developed. So the site design was really focused on a number of elements, providing a path from the existing parking down into this area in the center. We wanted to create an array of terraced seating to allow views not only to the stage, but also out to the water. And then we wanted to, of course, provide a small stage that could be utilized by different size gatherings. The design was really looking to keep a naturally minimal light touch on the existing landscape to really integrate into the park in a nice way. And then we wanted to have the design have easy upkeep for multiple seasons. So obviously it has to do okay in the snow, has to do okay in the rain, some heat in the summer, and then of course grass and how do you mow that on all these terraces. So those were also areas that we were looking into. And then we ran through a lot of different designs for the landscape, but we came to this idea of a kind of cove that creates this central sort of protected area, this lawn in the center. And so I'll sort of walk you through that on the next couple slides. So this shows just an idea that we wanted to focus on maximum flexibility for the site. So, the vast majority of time, I think this will be, 6 people who are coming up there for lunch and picnicking during the day or on a weekend. You could have weddings there. You could have, family gatherings. You could have larger events. So say like a quartet or some kind of musical performance that would be more over to the right side of this diagram. But these just show that we feel like it could really be utilized for a variety of different numbers of people. So if you go to the next slide. So this shows the view coming from the parking lot, sort of walking down that path, and we're showing the path as just grass here, but we're thinking that it would be either gravel or some hardscape to allow accessibility for wheelchairs and so forth. But so this gives an idea of the different terraces that sort of come down and create this coved central flat zone in the middle, and then the stage beyond. So this is obviously showing a lot of people there. If you go to the next image, so this shows looking at the stage, and we oriented it in such a way that it really pulls your eye out towards the water. And we wanted the pavilion not to be something that is, heavy on the site, but something that sort of visually goes away from a lot of different angles. So it really would just be one roof plane that allows views through and doesn't obscure the horizon. And then this view sort of from the stage looking back towards the terrace seating. And so, we're thinking that the material palette for this project would be very simple, pared down, cedar or redwood for the pavilion, and then a natural stone. We were thinking either like a dry stacked stone or stone veneers set into concrete, and then grass would sort of grow naturally between the tiers. And then this just shows an aerial view, kind of looking down to show you kind of the extent of how we're thinking those terraces would lay out. And we thought about this idea of planting trees amongst some of the terraces, and adding boulders, and so those ideas are all up in the air. And then the next slide shows, so these are just some references of how we're thinking about the terracing. Some of these on the left are obviously much larger and sort of more regular. We're thinking it would be something a little bit more naturalistic and curving. Yeah, something sort of more over to the right two images. And if you go down a tiny bit, there's a section. So this is a site section cut through the berm on the right. So you can see that we would be mounding up some earth to create these 18-inch risers to allow for really nice unimpeded views, both to the stage, but also out towards the water. So I think that's maybe it. Yeah. Tried to keep it as short as possible to get across the idea, but yeah, please let me know if you'd like any further explanation of anything, or if you have any questions.
I got so many questions.
I have some comments. Did anybody else want to go first? Okay. I think it's way cool. I just love it. Rachel, do you want to go back to the plan view or something maybe? I would just love to see this built somewhere. I just am not sure that in Little Harbor Springs, this is the spot for it. And I organized my thoughts a little bit. So first, some big picture items. When you enter into a project, you say, okay, what problem are we trying to solve? And underutilized park, you could say, is a problem, but it really isn't. So then, okay, maybe there isn't a huge problem. If this wasn't free, would we be pursuing it? And I think not. We had actually, Parks Board discussed taking an amphitheater off the CIP list just because of lack of interest on the surveys. And I guess bottom line, just because it's free doesn't mean it's a good idea. Then the next kind of category of thoughts is green space. And I think about, this kind of entrance into town, maybe a simple green space with some beautiful landscaping might be a nicer thing at that corner than having 8'6" berms there. In conjunction with the fences for the pickleball and the basketball courts and whatever vertical elements there are with the skate park. I just worry a little bit about kind of a visual hodgepodge at that corner. Let's see, on kind of a similar note, Cosequat Park is already much developed. And I just wonder about, what little passive green space is there. If maybe it's worthwhile to think about developing the park maybe in a little quieter way, with a little lighter touch even than you guys have done. It might be nice to have a pavilion there, but maybe we might like to keep it a little just flatter. It also seems like, in a lot of meetings, the sentiment in town now is to preserve green space and to keep things kind of simple at the parks, not to have a lot of development at the parks.
I think those are great comments, but I think those are more for the Parks Board. Does anyone have any questions about their actual?
No,
Design.
this is for Parks
Okay,
Board.
we can have a
discussion.
discussion once
Yeah.
they're done.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think he said
Yeah.
they were done. So then, the idea of downtown as an activity hub, it's kind of been our center for gatherings, music festivals. Let's see, land use, we've got this possible big conflict with parking and lighting and noise. I just imagine if this was a private project, that there's no way we would allow something like this to happen right up against a residential zoned area. There's also been a lot of pushback on commercial use of public space. And Jeff Grimm also is very concerned about parking being a problem with people parking then down onto Pine Street and surrounding neighborhoods. And then just looking at our own Parks Master Plan. So Cosequat has been in the past kind of developed as an active recreation complex. And that's why I just wonder if this use kind of fits in there. The park surveys don't support an amphitheater. I worry a little bit that we've got more important projects to work on, and is this gonna distract us from our priorities? Maybe put us in the firing line again. And if we're gonna be in the firing line, do we want to save it for something maybe more important than this? So those are my thoughts, and I love it. I just don't know about it at this spot. It's Little Harbor, Tiny Harbor Springs, I feel like, the whole list of amenities, we don't have have to have a check mark for every possible amenity that could be in a city. We don't have to have an amphitheater in our little town.
What other
My
sites were looked at?
I mean, we discussed Marina Park, came up a couple times, but I don't know if that would go over well. That would not be my recommendation personally. Actually, nowhere downtown would probably be my recommendation. Just
Do we
because
have-
then you're dealing with the waterfront.
Real quick, do we have any more comments for these guys? So they
No,
don't have
that's
to
what
hang
I'm
around.
saying. Yeah, do we have anyone want to actually ask them questions, or can we?
I'm
Yeah,
already
then-
familiar with
Yeah,
building one of these and what's going on here, so I think.
thank you, Max. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all. I appreciate it.
They don't need to listen to us.
Are we able to follow along with the discussion?
Yeah,
Is
yeah, of
that-
course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I just,
Yeah, of course.
I just, out of respect for your time, I didn't know if you really want
Yeah.
to listen to us.
Great. No, I appreciate it.
By all means.
I appreciate it. All right, thank you.
My thing is with that property, I mean, the only time it's really used, 4th of July. And I mean, I used to play on that property when there was a house there. So it's got parking, it's got everything. It's basically useless space until July. Maybe some people go up there, and have lunch or different things like that. But this soft landscaping thing, it also opens up a small revenue thing for the city and the longevity, if weddings want to go on there or different things. I mean, I think it opens up the door for a lot of things, and it's property that, the garden club takes care of the flowers there. City crew puts lights on the tree, but then what else goes on there? Nothing.
I think we need to
So-
look at it less as a concert venue and more of, I get a lot of phone calls all summer of where can I get married in Harbor Springs during July and August? And my answer is nowhere. Because you have no parking. You have no parking downtown. You can't close off a park for a wedding. So they'll use Zorn, but then those have to be specific dates. Or someone says, I have a family reunion and I want to have it downtown. We don't have an option. And it's okay if we don't go with this plan. We could do simply a pavilion or something to that nature. But I think Cups makes a valid point that it is green space. It's a beautiful location. You know, and it is an underutilized space.
I think it would
think
open
we're-
up the park to more use.
I feel perfectly comfortable with a pavilion. I just don't know about all that topography there. It just doesn't seem right to
I
me.
agree. And then what's the maintenance going to be?
Mhm.
And
The maintenance too
also,
would probably be far less than what we have now.
also it is residential there and you can say, well, there's a baseball field there, but the baseball field was there before people bought their homes. So they went in, it's kind of like church bells. Church bells rang before you bought your home. You own your home there, this is coming in and you might not want that across the street from you.
Yeah, but we can't always go along with. Oh, I mean,
No,
we're
I
trying to do
know,
what the
but-
greater good is for the city, not what,
Yeah,
two
but
people
I-
across the
so-
street, they're only there for
I-
2 months out of the
I
year.
guess my vision, and I could totally be wrong. My vision would be a smaller scale of this, still a little bit of the topography, because I think that's really pretty and aesthetically pleasing, as opposed to just a grass space. And we could do a similar pavilion, but it doesn't have to have a stage, it doesn't have to be lifted, it could just be, I mean, this kind of introduces it as a concert venue, which I agree with. That's kind of what you're opening your door for. But I think speaking with Max and working further on it, it could be a more downscaled version for different things, like wedding things they're speaking of. Not the 300 plus events, things like that. We could use a stadium for things like that. We were gonna go that route.
People pay for the view and it's a beautiful
Mhm.
spot for a view.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have any problem. I don't know, the pavilion I think could be good. You know, I think it'd be a nice place for picnics for softball teams after games.
You're gonna have to do some topography there because it's a 15-20 foot drop from where the house sat to down below.
Well, they had thought about putting a path, but I think it's too steep. I don't think we need to
Well,
connect.
that's why they have the seating built into that.
I don't think we need
they're
to
earthy.
connect down to the sidewalk on 119 though. I think as long as we connect to the sidewalk on Hoyt, that'll be okay.
There's stairs that go down
Yeah,
to.
Yeah.
Hoyt.
we don't
Do you
make
have
it.
photographs of the actual site available right now?
Say that again?
Are there photographs that you have right now of the actual site?
I can pull them out.
Just trying to visualize. I know I've been there a couple times, but
Rachel and I were up there a couple of weeks ago and we saw a lot of people from Bay Bluffs walking over like with a caregiver, pushing a wheelchair kind of thing. And they were saying that almost what they would want more than anything are just, you know, some little walks through there. So there's a whole population that uses that park that sometimes we don't think about.
Right.
So
But if you had somewhere for them to go, like sit with their significant other, because they don't have any place to go hang out. I mean, they just go for walks around the loop.
Well, they're not gonna sit on those terrace things, you know.
No, but they can take their wheelchair there and sit, look at the lake,
Yeah,
kind of
I
thing.
think it'd be.
sorry, this
yeah.
isn't the best view, but that's what it looks like now. And this is a very steep
Very
steep slope.
very steep.
slope. Jeez. Over here, there are steps, but they're not maintenance. They're very old. They're all overgrown, like 100 years old.
That's the old walkway into the
Yeah,
house.
they're, we wouldn't need stairs on this side. I agree with that. Most people would access it from this side. Bay Bluffs has, like Dana said, they spoke to us about doing a path along. So if we did do a pavilion or some sort, we would want a path for them because they stop right here and they take pictures. And it's kind of sad to watch because there's this beautiful park with a beautiful landscape and a view and they can't get to it.
so you're saying a walkway like around the pavilion on the exterior?
Yeah, some sort of, yeah.
A little-
Or a walkway that goes to the pavilion, you know, because there would have to be anyway. Just something simple where they can access the actual park space as opposed
Or if the
to,
pavilion was built, we just built a handicap ramp so they could get up.
Yep, we could. Another thought too, that goes towards not doing a lot of topography is, I think we've been saying that it's really good to keep our parks flexible. Let's say you had a wedding that did want a big tent. If you have all those, terraced walls in there, there's no way that's gonna happen. So I
They
would
wouldn't
say,
have a party there. They would just be there for saying yes, no, and maybe.
we don't
and-
know, we don't know.
And moving on.
Yeah.
We can't have parties like that, but if they wanted to rent it,
Yeah, we would allow
just
the
think-
wedding, not
That-
the
not the
reception.
reception.
In our park space, the better. I think it's a good
I'm up
idea
for,
to,
I like the pavilion and some kind of steps, topography, some
I like the
seating.
topography, not to the.
Not, maybe
possibly
not quite
extent
as
that's on
big as
here.
what that is, but I think some kind of seating built in. So some small terraces, whether it's 2, 3, something that would see 40, 50 people maybe. Nothing crazy. I think that would make that park extremely usable to everybody. And open up the door for some cool things.
Oh, I think they have a comment. Oh, explain. John, do you want to make a comment?
I'm just curious why these people are willing to make this investment.
So the gentleman who did the first presentation, initially came for an amphitheater just because he loves the idea of them, and he's gone to the Viewlands and he's spoken to them about putting an amphitheater, in there as well, in that property, and that was discussed, and then the Viewlands has gone a little back and forth, with that as well, and then he came to me because he knew it was on our capital improvement project list. And ultimately, I'm sure he's hoping, because he has that concert, to do concerts, but that's when I geared him towards the stadium for larger concerts. Because again, noise would be something we'd have to. take
Jen, I
into
think they did discuss with Rachel and I, potentially selling tickets to events there. And then that gets back into, do we want commercial uses of public property?
For this park, I would
But then
say,
they
no,
said-
I'd say the football field, but
Yeah, but then he was saying they would think nothing of paying, like $5,000 to rent it.
Yeah, I don't think that's what we would want to do on that property.
right now, I don't think that's our plan. But I think that would make this park more usable space.
Would there be any negative impact with pickleball courts or with the skate park? I'm just trying to think of different avenues. Maybe even space for.
I mean,
I
we're
mean-
simply looking into this because
Kids
it's
are
on our
using-
capital improvement project list. So it's a disservice to the community to have it on our list, have someone come to us and say, I want to create a design, then not at least look into it. If we decide this doesn't belong in our that's totally fine. But it is on there, so
I feel like we should pursue it, but at a much
smaller scale.
smaller scale. Yeah.
I think amphitheater in
About half the
general,
size
puts
of what-
fear.
Yeah, and I still don't know that I'm on board with it to be part of it, but I could be. I just think flexibility is important.
And we have the plans, so I mean, we don't have to, yeah, this wasn't gonna be a next year or the year after project anyway, so.
I think we could do something cooler with the pavilion and just that could sort of look like a, like a farm shed or something. I don't know.
So.
Yes and no, but like you said, you want to be able to see through it.
Yeah, keep it very open, but yeah, I think there's more ideas out there
What
still.
were you
to
gonna
look
say?
at.
Scott?
Yeah,
Walk
so,
pretty
I have gone up there and visited several times, 3, 4 times, to see how many parking spaces are adjacent, see what the foliage looks like and everything. And I think I think we could, as a Parks Board and Parks and Recreation, we could make it a more usable green space rather than an entertainment venue or whatever you want to call it. I mean, if we had nice tables up there, and up there, it's just not updated and it needs trimming, it needs pruning. It's a great spot, But I think, where you could go for lunch, people would learn about it in a quiet sort of way.
Yeah, I think if we
That would
don't
be
go
more-
with this, a pavilion
What the people
It's a great
want right
place.
now.
for the baseball teams, for
Yeah.
the skate park, for the pickleball, or, I mean, just in general, doesn't block the view for anyone, it doesn't alter
Right.
anything.
And if it was really cool, it'd be sort of this iconic thing at that corner. It should
Yeah, I
be
mean,
in
it'd be
town.
pretty.
It's
Charlotte was
beautiful,
able
but just
to,
as
you know,
a simple place where you can go,
their tear.
and bring your fried
That's
chicken.
built in. to it,
It's Another whole thing altogether.
Yeah.
Right, but you obviously see what Charlotte does with their setup there.
Mhm.
This is obviously a different scale,
Yeah.
but it kind of gives you an
And
idea.
our town's a different scale.
Oh, absolutely. But with the terrace and everything they got going on there, something small here would bring, more people would use it.
I just feel like, they had topography on their site in Charlevoix. There's no topography here.
No, but if we created something small, even if it was 6-8 feet, just a couple small terraces that,
I think
built.
that's too tall. I think we should keep talking about it. I do.
I think we all agree the park's underutilized,
Yeah.
use attention in some way.
So what would our next step on this be?
I say we,
To revisit in January?
Yeah.
And maybe.
or not even, I don't even think we revisit in January, I think in the spring or summer, when it's a full, everyone's in their homes again for the season, we bring it to the public possibly and do something, or where they would want an amphitheater, we don't know, maybe, I don't foresee this happening, but maybe people do say, let's put it in Marina Park, we don't know. Like I said, I don't foresee that.
But we could also in the spring, go in there with a chainsaw and get all
Yeah,
that stuff out.
Or
of the
people say we
middle.
don't want an amphitheater at all, then we take it off our CIP project and we put in a pavilion for $60,000. I mean, it's not, putting a pavilion in, it's not that complicated. So,
I guess I'm with Jen. I'm not totally clear. So they want to just put a pavilion in out of the kindness of their heart or?
no, they would fundraise for the project. He funded for the designs, but the actual project would be funded through him.
So it's not guaranteed funding.
Correct, yeah, no.
Okay. All right.
And cost to the city, like to the Parks Board itself, the idea is that it's 100% fundraised.
Yes, it would be a fundraise project, which was always the plan from the CIP list, that it would be fundraised.
It could be a grant too.
Yeah. It's been on the CIP list since 2020. We've done it
Yep.
here.
Yeah, it's been there for a while.
And it was never a top priority. It was pretty far down the years, like 2026 or something.
Okay, should we move on for
Yeah.
tonight then? Kiwanis sledding.
Let me get rid of all these things I have open. Okay. So the Kiwanis dates, does everyone remember them, first off? What they are? I have them on here somewhere, January. Let me see.
I've got them.
Okay, January 14th and 28th. And February 4th and 18th.
Okay.
And then the 14th is an evening. The 28th is an afternoon. And the 4th is an evening and the 18th is an afternoon. And this is all in the agenda packet I sent you, so you can look back and see them. And I think, Allison, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we decide hot dogs for the afternoon and pizza for the evening?
I
I think so too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I believe so.
And I just need to make sure cups, you can assure that the fire department will be there.
Right now, we got a meeting tomorrow night, so
Okay,
I'll verify.
perfect.
But I see no issue.
Everything else should be good to go. We had a few families come that Friday night of the first snow. That was fun. We did like hot cocoa, things like
And
that.
drive Henry and his friend off.
Yeah. I remember, yeah.
And do we want to decide now who's going to volunteer for which ones?
Yeah, if we'd like to.
I don't think we have a meeting again before the 14th, do we? I'll be at the first one.
Yeah, I didn't bring my calendar with me. I'll have to compare
Or do you
with
want to
ski
send a
schedule.
note out?
Yeah, I'll send a note out. I'll sign up. I'll be at all. And
And then you'll handle ordering pizza, maybe not as much as last time, and
Yeah.
do it maybe in, like Bill can run and get a
Yeah.
batch, not do it all at
Yeah.
once, so it doesn't get cold. Perfect. And then social media and all that.
Schools, yeah, schools.
Will there be a sign up at the city band?
So we do have a banner for this.
We have a Winterfest one that I can get patches for, it'll be simple. I don't think there's a need to get a whole new banner. And adjust,
So you could just get like 4 things made up for each of the,
yeah.
great.
And when you do the flyers, please be sure to add like the nighttime, there'll be pizza and
Okay,
hot
yeah,
dogs for the kids, so that they know their kids can come and have lunch or dinner.
And make sure they know it's free.
Yes, for sure.
okay. And then can I get those to you and can you get them in
Yeah.
the school newsletter?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
Perfect. Are we ready to move on?
Yep, I had just a few things for us to think about for the next meeting, just real quickly. I talked to Rachel about, it'd be good if we like just had the whole list of what we want to do in 2023 and just kind of have a common understanding of what our priorities are and what we're going to be working on and what we need to do and what Rachel's doing. We also discussed about, she's got started on a presentation to council and all the wonderful things we did in our first year of business here. And then we can also share what our priorities are for the next year. You're working on the grants for the boardwalk and for the wheelway, and those are all due
I'll
tonight.
go over that in the director's.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yep. We had a brief discussion about the playground, and I think we're just gonna let it rest, but we need to kind of have a plan of, you know, do we want to do like, you know, a town hall thing, or have we gotten enough public input to last a lifetime?
Yes,
I haven't heard anything from anyone about it, but it's the holidays, so I really don't know if we can assess anything until after the new year.
Okay,
Because that's when people
so
will
let's
be looking at
maybe
spring.
talk about it.
Yeah, no one's looking at spring yet.
We want to be ready to go though. Let's see. Oh, and then I had a request, from Wendy Frishy, I think her name is, she lives on Lake Street, about, would council, or would the city be willing to turn that triangle that was maybe almost gonna be a, power station into a park? Or, a conservancy or something like that. And I like that idea, you know, it's close to the schools, we could put trails through there, do some interpretive stuff. So just something not to talk about today, but next time. Rachel pointed out there's, you know, a lot to figure out, you know.
there used to be a lot of
Not
trails
park
through there.
property.
Used to be what?
There used to
that.
be trails through there.
Whose property is it?
It's cities,
Oh,
it's just
okay.
not designated
Yeah.
parks.
Got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Designated
Got
Oh,
park.
The Parks
Okay.
Board, I believe, I'd have to ask Victor what the protocol would be. I'm sure we could still put in like a request. I think it's 2 acres total would be my guess.
Roughly.
It's somewhere around there, like 2 acres.
When we were kids, there used to be trails through there all the time,
Well, it's kind of right in the middle of that whole recreation complex there, and it seems like it would be.
but that was before that's back when it used to be a flower shop and everything else.
But it could be a good addition to all the other recreation stuff there. And then that's all I've got.
My director's report is kind of messy because we didn't meet last month. Kind of bear with me. We're gonna sponsor an ice sculpture. Sorry, it was gonna be a question, but I had to get the paperwork in. So Parks will be sponsoring an ice sculpture for Ice Fest 2023. I thought there'd be more parks options. It's gonna be someone sledding.
Good,
It's gonna be.
perfect.
Yeah, perfect. I mulled over it for way too long, I'll be honest.
Oh, that's fun.
The
There's cups on the sled.
Yeah.
And then the Parks Master Plan, so excited to say, I'm turning it in this week. I just have to get the minutes from the council meeting. The minutes are approved at Monday night's council meeting, just have to be signed by the mayor. And then I have to attach them to DNR and then I can send it in. That's the last thing we're waiting for. So we are good to go with that.
Great.
The Sparks grants we're applying for the boardwalk is top priority, and then the wheelway is second priority. MDOT has given the go ahead, the verbal go ahead that we can use the spillway as the wheelway. they've granted that for flooding. So we've done enough research over a year and a half for them to give the go ahead. So that will be, and we just had a meeting with Harbor Inc. because they were kind of taking that whole project over because they were doing the study, an individual on their board. So both of those grant applications are due December 19th. Now, the wheelway, I want to just be clear, isn't to get all the way to downtown. It's just to get from where it ends at Closapot Park, come down M119 and under. That'll be the only private grant, won't go any further. I believe, don't quote me, but Petoskey may be applying to correct their erosion site. And I don't know if Charlevoix is applying for a grant, but I know they're looking into it, extending it into their downtown as well.
So it could be good to have all that going on.
Mhm.
and
Yeah, so
get
it's an
support from the
exciting
state.
project. Like I said, all the applications are due December 19th. They're reviewing them on a rolling basis, so we should get an answer fairly quick as compared to other DNR applications, because they are federal funds. You have to have the project completed in 2026, so it's a little quicker. And then there'll be a second round and then a third round for applications. The major differences between this grant and the trust fund grant, which is the cycle in April, is DNR made this grant more accessible to all communities, whereas you don't need a parks plan. So communities that wouldn't have a parks director, someone to write a parks plan, you can still apply. And you also don't need a match. The trust fund, you need a 25% match, I believe, to 50%. And this one you do not. So it's recommended, but it's not scored. So that also opens it up to other communities. It doesn't hurt us, but just know that if we, for any reason, don't get them, we can still apply for those trust fund grants, because we will have all those tools. The parks plan will be completed and approved by DNR, and the boardwalk, we will have a match. So between both fundraising efforts. Any questions on those?
No, that's great.
Cool.
Good.
And then what else? Lucas and I sat in, it was about like 2 hours. It was about ADA standards for accessible design and outdoor play environments. It just went over, you know, if you're doing the bare minimum versus all out, you know, 100% ADA accessible, which is kind of, you know, a lot of municipalities can't afford or have the room even to do. But it was really interesting. So I got a certification that you had like a quiz at the end. So that was good for training. Park updates, or new toilets at Quantum Park.
Boardwalk fundraising. update.
Oh, boardwalk fundraising. You all have your invitation. We're doing a fundraising event with the New York. So it's $100 a ticket, and then 50% of the proceeds will go towards the boardwalk, and that is next Friday. And it's gonna be like heavy hors d'oeuvres. There'll be a band at 8, cash bar. Be a good time.
So I will just say that tomorrow, you know, because I'm sort of connected to the New York restaurant.
Sort of.
Tomorrow we have a meeting at it was at 1, now it's at 4, to discuss things. But I already know that Matt has ordered a dance floor, you know, for upstairs by the band and everything. And we're talking about having a table where we can take donations, and we'll coordinate with Rachel. You know, whatever documents and billboards and things that we need. But one of a very good point that Dana brought up earlier today was we need somebody who can explain if foundations want to do grant. Because there are some people who are,
I think it's
with
the whole
foundations.
trust fund thing, like how to donate from a trust fund.
yeah, from.
So
a
Nick will
trust-
be there, so
Nick
he'll
will
be able
be
to
there?
answer all those
Nick will be
questions.
there.
Nick is
So
coming
that's
to
the
the
answer.
Yep.
That's the answer.
specifically for that reason.
Yeah.
So I don't have to explain that. to everyone.
That Could be a
Yeah.
significant donation, and we need to be sure we'll have that. And we'll have, you know, we think we'll have a table,
Yeah.
and you have the, I don't know what you call the board.
Yeah, we have a poster board. I spoke to Jane today.
Okay,
Yeah, so we have the poster board. Jane's gonna come up with some images, like historical images. We have the brochures. So we'll have that all set up.
and
when
then
people walk in.
the other thing that there's been discussion about is to have your name on a step. And to fundraise for that, whether is that something that we can do? And what should it be? Is it 500 for a step? Is it 1,000? You know, what is it?
So Victor, Matt, and I sat down and discussed, and I'll be honest with you, we were all on very different sides of the spectrum. Victor was higher than, myself, and Matt was lower than myself.
So Matt wants it, Victor doesn't want it?
No, we all want it. Our
How much?
prices were,
The amount.
were different.
Oh,
They ranged from 5,000 to 1,000. And then we discussed plaques on the actual steps versus plaques on the platforms going up. And we all landed on having a board that has all the names
Mhm.
on kind of the rest stations going up. And then the donors who donate, 25,000, just throwing out a number, 25,000 or more would be on the platform. There would be another, scale. And then your name wouldn't be on every platform, obviously. It would just be, the individual ones as we go up.
does that look kind of junky to have them on all the platforms? Would it be better just to have it like up on the viewing
I
platform?
think it
or
could be
down at
made
the
to look
bottom?
really nice.
I think it, no, because I've seen them before where like she's saying, your big donors of X and if you have it on the viewing platform, obviously that is the grand scheme of things, right?
But we've got a
And then
whole
you
lot
got-
of land and stuff.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are doing it, but if you have 25 names here, 25 names
Yeah.
here, 25 names
Spread 'em
here
out.
on a plaque that's this big by this big, so it's actually legible and you can see a name. That's,
I think it'll look nicer than having them on the steps.
yeah, you just break it up.
I think they'll get damaged on the steps when DPW shovels it. If you have to replace a board on a step, then we have to replace, it's a lot easier to have a plaque with the names going up than it is to have them on the individual.
Fine,
steps.
just so,
But,
And then,
we understand.
yeah, and then we'll come up with a
Somebody
price.
else donates, you can add to it,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But I think,
But I will say that there's been pretty good, we've sold, a number of tickets, maybe 25 tickets. But there's also been a lot of sharing on social media of the posts. And so I think a lot of people are aware of the event. And hopefully it'll be great.
Kind of a good holiday social thing too.
That's what I think. I think at first Matt and I weren't sure if the holidays would hurt us, but I actually think it'll help.
Mhm.
I think more people are here.
It's
and
the
They
season
wanna
of
help
giving.
each other's
and-
friends.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Any other questions on the event?
if not, after all the stuff the past few months, it's gonna be a nice gathering.
It is. It is.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it'll be fun. I'm glad that Matt went with the idea instead of like seated. That it's just gonna be hors d'oeuvres and
that's
kind
a
of
lot more
casual.
fun.
It's
Yeah.
nice. So,
And he's rented a dance floor. He wants the band to play rock and roll.
yeah,
He wants you to be rocking.
Been there to be lively. Any other questions? Good, okay. So new toilets were installed in Kiwanis Park. Yes, and then, there will be a utility sink by the time we do, our dates. It's just gonna be hooked up to where the water line already is to save money, but
Is that one of the
Perfect.
bathrooms or?
no,
Right
no,
in
no, no. Where that closet is, that's always
Oh, yeah,
locked
yeah.
when you first walk in, it's right there. That's where the water is. So when we do a building redesign, we can do whatever we want, but just to have a sink, we'll do that. We're gonna wait to cut down the grasses, in the
Yeah.
spillway Arena Park till the spring.
They took down the, what do you call those things?
Those two left, yeah, I took those down. Those corn stalks?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're gone.
There were two left.
I do have a little question about whether this is only the second year on those boxwoods down at Marine Park, if we should burlap them.
Mm,
I don't know if you want
Yeah.
to call Mike Bose and see if he'd be willing to just do it for free,
yeah.
or I
So
could do it.
those.
Yeah, I can put them in,
That's good.
and we'll definitely give him a nice thank you in the newspaper or something.
The pickleball nets are down, the game box is put away, the painted marina tables are up in the Kiwanis building. The skate park Halloween event went really well. Any of you attended, Sarah? I believe I saw you. There were bounce houses, candy games, skating, BC Pizza. Nate Jacks, who manages the skate park, he did an excellent job. And then it was fully funded from an anonymous donor for the community foundation, so. Perfect.
Great.
That's all skate park update. So our fundraising is continuing, but we've made it to the amount where we can start, designing. And we have booked Evergreen for the spring. We don't like have an official date. I can tell you it takes about 6 to 8 weeks from the time they get here to the time it ends, and that's weather dependent, obviously. They'd like to get it done in early spring. So they're not fighting with all the traffic and commotion that's already going on in Harbor Springs in the summer. It's also easier for them to get housing for their workers if they do it in the spring, early spring.
So they bring all the trades and
Yep, they do all that. So we'll work on in-kind donations such as like, can DPW demolish what's there? And we already have a restroom for the workers, you know, concrete supplies, things like that will work to cut costs a bit. They've met with Lucas about all the utility lines, and what they need to do there and just, you know, reinforcing that we're using the same footprint and the fencing will be down. They're talking to Nate about what we'd like to see there, as far as design and components. And then as that gets closer in late February, that'll come to the Parks Board. And we will review it, for any questions with Evergreen. We'll do kind of like public input. And then it may come to the Parks Board again, and then it would go to council. And then they would start their design, but it's gonna be pretty quick. You're coming. I don't know if they'll have to go to the planning commission. I don't think so, because it's already there. We're not changing, you know, the size of it or anything like that. But that's still up for debate. So don't be surprised when that's on our agenda here in a little bit.
What is their approximate build out time?
Like how soon you think you'll have it done?
No, how long does it take them?
Oh, 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks. From the time they start, like they're pretty much sun up to sundown because they want to get going on other projects. But like I said, weather dependent.
Right.
Yeah, but other than that, he said about 6 to 8 weeks. It usually doesn't take longer than that, which is good news. So won't be an all summer ordeal. It doesn't take up a lot of parking. They don't see going outside that footprint for equipment. We discussed that, do the baseball fields, all that. So it seems like a fairly streamlined, simple.
and it's all kind of below grade, right?
Yeah, there's
So like
already
a
water
swimming
lines. I
pool.
think it's the ice rink, which is nice. So they kind of already have that infrastructure for drainage. So that saved costs. All the utility electrical lines, Lucas and I are 99% sure on the pickleball side, because they had to discuss that when they did that whole project. So that saves costs. So it should be a fairly streamlined process.
And I might have the demo set up.
Okay. Cool. Perfect. And
You're gonna
then.
be skateboarding?
What's that?
You're gonna be on a skateboard?
No.
I mean,
I may have the demo set up to where we can remove all the asphalt out of there.
but there will be also on M118 for that culvert, there'll be a detour around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not
And all
sure
those
that
trees are
that-
coming down next spring.
Yeah, that'll be the
Pine
next
tree.
big group, trust me.
Yeah, those are all.
We love all that.
And then the Viewlands, the dog park, so that's off our capital improvement project list for parks, because where are we gonna put that? But council did decide on Monday to move ahead and just discuss partnering with the Viewlands for just annual costs, not building it costs or fencing or any of that. They'll fundraise for that. Just what cost sharing would look like once they come with.
If we
So
get
that's
that-
kind of off our docket, which is nice.
You said you were working hard on that, so you would come back to us with information.
And then December 19th, council will choose board members for new terms. So
Actually, that's already done.
no,
Or what,
it's not done. It's December 9th.
for,
Yeah, for Parks Board.
For parks,
for,
Correct. Because
gotcha,
they're 1-year terms.
gotcha.
Well, Sarah, was filling,
Yep, yep.
got appointed for the rest of that 1-year term.
So, cause you're stuck with me for another year.
reapply.
And that's all I have.
And no new applications are needed. You guys,
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean,
You
as
don't
long
have
as
to,
people, they're interested.
you don't
so.
have to reapply?
Hmm?
You do not have to reapply? If you're-
No, I mean, they just have to say if they're still interested, and if they're still interested, they'll do the applications, and we
Make it
call it a
easy.
day.
okay, are we ready to adjourn?
We're ready.
Great, at 7:21.
Good.
Done.
Good. What a good meeting.
So excited. Richard Kenny.
Yeah, and I don't mean to totally impose my ideas about that amphitheater, but it's just,
Right.
you know, we'll have many, many more discussions.
Yeah.
Go slow on it.